Remember, when you're speaking to one person, you're speaking to everybody. And the blog came back a little bit. We had to manage the crowd a little bit. Now, what did that mean? It meant when the Constitution was changed, some of the articles were changed during the transaction. So each time it was done, it had to be explained to the crowd why it was being done, how it was being done, and how it affected them. It required a lot of time and energy by the company, and a commitment to manage all of them. And incidentally, for those of you who've crowdfunded, when the crowdfunding pitch finishes and it's handed over to you by CrowdCube or whatever, that portal disappears. You have to run your own portal. So those conversations have to continue over and over again in the future. So Camden ran a significant publicity campaign in conjunction with CrowdCube and had adverts everywhere, as we've said. They could only raise a certain amount, because if they raised more money, the requirements of the Part 6 of the Financial Markets Act 2000 came in. So you can't raise more than 5 million without a prospectus. They chose not to go that route. They chose to go this route and raise a certain amount. And any additional offers later were put aside. Now, the requirements of institutional investors and private equity investors don't necessarily work with the transparency requirements of a crowd. So we had to manage them separately and allow them to see that it was absolutely necessary for the crowd to see everything, which they did. Also, if anything happens after the pitch goes live, any changes, there is a requirement to go in and report that to the crowd. So the conclusion on this, did it work out for Camden? Yes. Early stages, over-invested. Now, when I step back from this and look a little bit, I spoke to Camden and I asked them in preparation for today, did it work for them? And they said, yeah, absolutely. They love what they've done, they love where they're going. I spoke to someone else, not in the company and not a client of mine, but another company, and I asked him how it had gone for him, and his very words were, I wish I hadn't given those bastards B shares. They've got no right to be in my company. When I asked him about this, he said, well, it's my company, not theirs. I tried to explain they'd invested. He failed to grasp the idea that he would be giving up some control. And a lot of these companies, they're small companies, and control is really, really important. So there's a lot to consider. The future of the company, promises being made, and the introduction of thousands of shareholders in an environment they're not used to working in. So, does it work? Well, it raised the profile of Camden. Most of you have heard of them. They've done very well. They've gone into secondary funding. And it creates a community of investors who buy into the brand. They tell their friends about it. So how to end this? Well, I'm going to tell you a story. About 2 weeks ago, I was in Ealing. And I went into a pub in Ealing, and they had Hell's Lager, which some of you may know is the main lager of Camden. And I said to the barman, oh, you didn't have this last time I was in here? He said, no, we've got it. It's fantastic. He spent 10 minutes telling me how wonderful the beer was. He didn't know me. And then he looked at me sheepishly, and he said, I liked it so much, I put my own money in. So for him, it obviously meant something. Is it the future? I don't know. Thank you.
Okay, well, I'll ask one question, and then I'll
Sure.
hand over to the crowd for other questions. So, Camden was obviously a fantastically successful campaign. I think it overfunded, you said 183%.
Yeah, at the moment, yeah.
2.5 million.
Yeah.
And that obviously raised the proportion of the equity that was available to
Sure.
investors. But it was also a really interesting campaign because the valuation actually changed mid-campaign. That's right, isn't it? Because
Yep.
a Belgian manufacturer acquired a certain amount of the company. And that was really interesting because on the one hand it was good because the terms changed for the equity crowdfunds. They then acquired proportionately more of the company for the money that they were putting in. But then it also raised questions, I suppose, about why the valuation changed. Can you shed some light on that?
Well, obviously, I mean, it's someone that's privileged because I'm their lawyer. What I can tell you is, I knew you were going to ask the question. You put it very well. Those who invested earlier on actually did better. Well, if you think about it, the valuation, as the lady previously said, a valuation is an idea of what they think it's worth. Okay? And they took advice. That was the idea they came up with. When someone came in and offered a big chunk of money at a slightly different valuation, it seemed sensible. They were in the business of raising money to buy a brewery. So they said, yeah, it looks fair. We discussed in some detail the crowd, and we decided what you just said. Those who are in already are going to do better. They'll see us doing more. And there was an announcement to the crowd about what had happened, an explanation by Jasper Cuppage, and there was a whole raft of PR, and some of it wasn't very positive, and asked the same question you had. But to me, nobody lost out of it.